Hey, it's Ryan with the Barn Strength and Conditioning, here to talk about some mobility prescription today. We're looking at front rack problems and solutions. First things first, let's talk about the ideal front rack. So what I want to think about when I'm going into my front rack is getting my hands right outside of my shoulders. That's my starting point. I can move out from there. I'm trying to, whenever I go underneath the bar, I'm getting in good contact with the back of my delt, my collarbone, and my throat on both sides is where I should be feeling the bar. So I can kind of torque in here, getting tight, my chin's up and back, and then I'm pressing up against the bar at all times. My upper back is tight as well. So before we even talk about any possible problems, we got to make sure that we actually have the problems. So if you're just not feeling really tight in that front rack, if you're not feeling in a good position, first thing I always want to try, move these hands out a little bit, actually torque myself into a good position, one arm at a time, and then kind of feel it out from there. If you're still getting what you think is an issue, then we'll look at fixing it. So let's look at some possible problems. First things first, if I just can't get my hands very wide, if they're too narrow and my back is rounding, two usually connected symptoms, there's a couple things we can do to fix that. We'll look at those in just a second. We'll break down all these mobility components in just a minute. If I go to get in my front rack and my elbows are just too low, I just can't get a good support with my shoulders. A couple other things we can look at there as far as doing that mobility. We're going to try to open up those lats and that posterior shoulder a little bit more. And then if I'm going in and I just can't get anything but my fingertips or my fingers slide off all the time, there's a couple more things we can look at. We're going to look at more forearm and wrist on that one. Alright, so let's kind of break down some of these mobility components. Alright, first one we're looking at, we're going to look at this shoulder external rotation stretch. We got our trusty Excalibur here. We're going to go ahead and hold this upside down in front of our face. I'm going to flip it over. I got it on my elbow. I'm going to keep my elbow up in front of my shoulder. My wrist is over my elbow, and I'm going to pull this bottom part across, kind of open up this anterior shoulder with our beautiful model, Jonathan, performing this for us. Alright, here we go, next one. Alright, next we're looking at mobilizing that T-spine, that middle of the back a little bit more. First thing we're going to need is our magic healing tube, and we're going to need a beautiful contestant here. So we're going to lay back a little bit onto this tube. I'm going to put it right in the middle of my T-spine. I'm going to start with my legs flat on the ground, my arms go by my head, and then I'm just going to lay back over this and try and extend my arms out the further and further. I'm trying to get these shoulders to the ground. This is going to take that T-spine kind of locked in that bowed position and kind of work it and let it move a little bit more freely. Alright, here we go next. Alright, here we're looking at getting those elbows up a little bit more. So I'm going to do my banded shoulder distraction right here. I'm starting out, I'm putting my hand on the back side of that band right there. I'm going to get it in between two fingers. I'm stepping back. My palm goes to the ceiling. I'm going to block this hand in with my other hand, keeping that palm up. I drop my hips way back, lowering that shoulder, and we're going to open up right here, kind of opening up that teres, helping us get our elbows up a little bit more. Alright, right here we're going to look at some more shoulder distraction with that band, open up that lat some more instead of the teres like we just talked about. First things first, I'm going to get this elbow under the bottom, or get the band under the bottom of my elbow. I'm flipping that hand up underneath, supporting that band. I'm going to walk way out. My elbow goes up. I'm keeping it tucked into my ear. If I have an awesome friend to help me, I can grab that wrist, pull it out as I'm pushing that elbow in, kind of getting those external rotators of the shoulders involved too, helping me get those elbows up even further. Our last couple here, what I'm looking at is opening up these wrists and these forearms and sort of getting this joint capsule organized a little bit. If I'm having trouble getting my whole hand underneath that bar, this can be one of the problems. So I'm going to start out with this arm breaker stretch. My hand goes to the wall. I'm going to move my hand up till my palm doesn't touch anymore. And once my palm doesn't touch, I can then lock that elbow, turn my chest away, and look over my other shoulder. I'm going to get a big global detection stretch all the way from my wrist up into the sternocleidomastoid in my neck, and kind of finding out where my issue may be, but ultimately opening up that wrist. And then another thing we can do for our wrist issues, I can take both wrists, I'm turning my fingers all the way back to my body, I'm going to press these palms into the ground and just rock back against them, and I'm finding where these sticky spots are in here. I'm going to pin this hand. I can even go single pin this hand and kind of seek them out myself, find out where the tight spots are, really hang out in there. And always remember, anytime we're mobilizing, it's 2 minutes to make a change in that soft tissue. So let's do our mobility, let's get that front rack better, and let's get better this week.